Welcome to the Temple of Flame. On today, Faith Lights, we take a look at this. And what this is from Terrapin Ridge Farms, it is the hot Habanero Bacon Jam. Now, bacon jam is something that I've started to see a lot more on burgers. And of course, that's the main thing they reference here. You can pour over cream cheese, I guess. I don't have cream cheese. But we have roasted red bell peppers. So we have something that hits some of my targets. I love fire roasted peppers, whether they're hot or just red bells. I think red bells, that's been a pepper I've enjoyed a lot of over the years. Not really a fan of the green because they don't taste ripe to me. So yellow, orange, red, those I like better, with red being my favorite. I think there's just a lot more flavor there. But we've got here sugar water, the roasted red bells, jalapenos, bacon, habanero puree, salt, smoke flavor, pectin, lemon juice concentrate, and citric acid. So you're going to get some smokiness with the bacon to begin with. But I sort of question why they went with jalapenos instead of chipotle. If you wanted the smoky, just do that. Like, why are you adding, like, fake smoke flavor? To me, most of the time is not very good. And for a while, I was heavily into barbecuing and over charcoal and smoking and stuff like that. I spent a lot of time trying to replicate it in the winter, you know, with certain liquid smokes and liquors and stuff like that. And it's just not, the fake liquid smokes, they always taste like fake liquid smokes. It's one of the problems with extracts as well, in that extracts, they're getting a lot better now, but for the most part, you sort of get that metally, chemically extracty taste of stuff, and it adds heat, sure, but it just kind of fouls what you're doing, you know. And at some point, to me, I've never been interested in heat for the sake of heat, you know. And at some point, if the question becomes, what are we doing here? In my view, you've sort of already failed. And heat for just the sake of heat is, you know, you might as well just take droppers of pure capsaicin and call it a day at that point, because you're giving up on flavor. And to me, that's not why we would ever use any condiment, really. So as far as this goes, most of the bacon jams in general, I'm intrigued by the concept, but I'm not bacon obsessed. And secondarily, most of the time, the bacon jams tend to have onions in them. So I'm already out of the picture, you know, with that facet of it. So I found one that happily doesn't have onions in it. So I'm interested to kind of see where this goes. We have habanero here as the sort of prime mover as far as the heat goes. And we've got some, looks like we've got some liquid here that is separated a bit. Oh, this is so this is not striking me as a jam, but much more of a jelly. Yeah, I don't know where, if I'm going to continue to do these, I probably should look up what the actual difference is, because I don't know. You have jams, you have jellies, you have preserves, you have marmalades. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff like this. Just put-ups of different... This one is not really so much fruit. Obviously, it does have a lot of pectin here. And, but this to me seems more of a jelly. So, which is too bad. I was kind of hoping it would be a little more chopped up than this. I can definitely smell the smoke here. As I'm sitting here jawing at you guys about how I don't know anything about this sort of thing. See, there's definitely pieces of bacon in there. So I'm guessing the roasted red peppers are maybe what they tried to use as the fruit here. I mean, it looks like a brownish jelly to me. It doesn't look like a jam. I wouldn't say this is a jam. Jams, I think, tend to have more... They're not as rigidly formed together than this. They seem to have more or less viscosity. I always forget which is which, but they're looser. You can dip your spoon. You could theoretically, without having to force it through, you could theoretically dip your spoon probably near the bottom of this. This one, you can see I had to actually carve out this chunk, but I mean, it looks fine. Definitely, I am getting the smoke smell here, though. So let's just get in and see what we got. I would call this more of a jelly. The other bacon jam type stuff I've seen are really more of spreads. You can see this is very, very clearly a jelly. So, I don't like jelly by itself, particularly. I could see where this would work great with cheese. I will say that. I don't like the texture of it, but like that, I don't like Jell-O. I've never liked Jell-O. I find the texture of Jell-O to be extremely off-putting. So I'm not a fan of that. And the only time I ever sort of like it, well, I mean, shooters, like booze shooters with Jell-O were kind of a fun thing. In the 80s and 90s, we did a lot of... I could live with that because our whole purpose is to kind of get ripped and new and creative in different ways. But with... outside of that, you know, when you kind of chop it up and you mix it with whipped cream and then put other fruits and stuff in there, I can tolerate that to a really small extent. I don't... As I get older, I can tolerate sugar just way, way, way less than I could when I was younger. And so I wouldn't ever eat any of that now, but I could tolerate it more so back then because I like Cool Whip and whipped cream and stuff a lot better. Just never really been a fan of Jell-O. So anyway, that aside, I do have some cheese. These are grilled burgers off the grill. And I probably should have these warmer than what they are now. So I've been sitting here jacking my jaw for a while, but see, this is annoying. This is much less of a spread than I was really... Okay, this is much less of a spread than I was really hoping for, and I think I just have made a really stupid thing here. Let me get the... So here we actually are going to try with cheese on a cheeseburger. Let me use the fork and see if that helps. So I think this is over challenging my plastic spoon here. I love the plastic spoons for the white point, and sometimes they're useful in the videos as well. However, in this case, this is just, it's very rigid. And this is not refrigerated either. This is just out of my cupboard. I bought this during the winter when I just happened to see it on the shelf. And, you know, sometimes when I come across stuff like that I think, I was like, oh, I want to try to get coverage while I'm doing the FOH series. I want to try to get as much coverage as I possibly can. So sometimes I'll pick up stuff for a video, and then, you know, I spent a good amount of time thinking about, okay, what do I want to film with this, whatever the product is. in this case, I knew I'd want to do burgers. So these, the burgers were cooked flawlessly, but I did oversalt these slightly, which is not made any better by this. I mean, the flavor is fine. Because it's a jelly, to me, it's a little bit less dense than I wish it was. I wish it was a little more concentrated. One of the things I'm going to do is actually put this on the grill, on a burger that's actually on the grill. See if I can't just work in a little bit of caramelization. For that, I think it's going to work great. It's definitely sweet along the lines of a jelly. No question there. So, there's no real heat to speak of, though. The habanero puree is... So I kind of question this label. Because it's saying sugar, water are the main 1 and 2 ingredients. Then roasted red bell peppers. And I've encountered some of the pieces of that. Then jalapeno pepper. I probably have encountered some of those. Then bacon pieces. Then habanero puree. So it's kind of in the middle of the pack here. Followed by salt, smoke flavor, pectin, and so on. But I don't know enough about how much pectin you would have to those things, but it seems like the habanero is just way back in the mix. You know, and that kind of raises the point is like, when you put, so when you put, this label to me is just wrong, I guess. It's not hot, either temperature or piquancy. There is habanero listed there. It's not coming through in the flavor particularly, or certainly not delivering any heat. I've already spoken about, I think it's more of a jelly. If they called it a bacon jelly, even a habanero bacon jelly, that would make more sense to me. Again, I just don't know enough about that though, so I say that while fully recognizing I could be off base on that, and I'm gauging my impression based just on different versions of foodstuffs that I had fairly rarely over the course of my life. And if, wow. Okay. So if jams are not meant to be more spreadable, then I'll take the L on that one. I will tell you this. So on the just the regular burger, it was fine. Here, with the addition of this cheese, and this is a really mild Havarti cheese. The Havarti and this jelly are just going together magically. So I think I wish it was more of a spread so I could put it on the burger and then put the cheese on top and melt the cheese into it like I've done in some of the other videos. Wow. So they're dead on the money when they talk about putting it with cheese. Dead on the money. It is fantastic with cheese. Jellies usually are. Brilliant. So definitely, if you're going to have this on a burger, make sure it's a cheeseburger. That's my advice. It is amazing. Amazing to me. How much better this is with just that slice of cheese. It went from being okay to something that's really kind of marvelous. Wow. Okay. That's why we do this, right? We like to find out what's good. So, obviously, I've eaten a bunch of this on the burgers. I'm getting just the barest tingling, but I will say also, these are salt and pepper burgers. And usually, I'm pretty heavy-handed with the pepper. I would have normally done a plain burger, actually, but I wasn't planning on testing this. I just was looking at the leftovers in the fridge, and the buns I had went bad, so I was like, well, I'm going to have it by itself. And then I happened to be getting something else out of my cabinet, and I saw this, and I was like, well, when opportunity knocks, answer the door, you know. Wow. That blend. So the ones, let me talk about this for a minute. After I dainty myself up a little bit. Okay, so I prepared these burgers all the same. I'll whip through here what I did. Because I try to keep everything as scientific as possible, particularly if I think I'm going to be doing content. And I was planning on doing content with some of the burgers for a different product. In fact, if you want to see what I was talking about, putting the sauce under the cheese on the grill, you can check out the Adobo Loco Jalapeno Chico video, which is available in the Hot Ones playlist or in the Hot Sauces playlist, as you prefer. So what I did was, I took a cookie sheet, I laid down wax paper. On the wax paper, I put a nice, fairly thin layer of salt and pepper. Just kosher salt and pepper. Then I formed the burgers into balls. And I'm not sure what sports ball they would be. They like maybe this. Not quite the size of one of those squeeze balls, I guess. Maybe not quite. I mean, those vary. Or like maybe, how big are handballs? Maybe it's about that. Anyway, you get the idea, right? It's bigger than a golf ball, but it's that same sort of ball shape. Plunk that down on the bottom salted and peppered wax paper sheet. Then I did that for as much burger as I had. Then I put another piece of wax paper over the top. And I took the bottom of a glass that would cover the burgers that spread and just evenly pressed all those balls flat. Obviously, that's not a new cooking technique. That people have done that with cookies and stuff like that, with baking and stuff forever. Nothing new under the sun, right? And then after that, I pulled off that piece of wax paper, tossed it, and salted and peppered the layer of burger. Now, these, you saw they were fairly thin, relatively thin anyway. Not as thin as like a regular cheeseburger or whatever, a Crackdonald's or Burger King. And so the plain burgers read with this as well as just a bit overly salty. Like when they're that thin, I'm a dummy. I didn't need to do more than one side. So the side that I had already done on the wax paper, I could have deleted that, or I probably more likely should have just not done that and just done the top layer. But I could have deleted that as well. Any which way, so those like so were just too salty without the cheese. You add in the cheese. Now cheese is going to have a degree of salt as well. But you add in the cheese, and then this one, and all of a sudden, that sort of impression of it being oversalted goes away. It's just gone. And it tastes actually like just something new and quite great. It's got the really, really good grilled, slightly smoky, a bit of the Maillard effect hamburger taste. Because like that salt and pepper, I try to keep it pure. Plus the cheese, smooth creaminess of the cheese, plus this. And it just was it just read really, really super nice. So it just kind of amazes me that the only difference between that last thing I had and the first two I had was that slice of Havarti cheese. So it just that's why I try to play around with stuff as much as possible. When the experimentalism is of great interest and huge appeal to me, but that's why I do it, because I don't always know those things. This was just like, well, I'm just going to have lunch and finish off the leftovers, blah, 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 blah. And that was a little bit salty. We'll just see what happens. And the first two were like, okay, yeah, I knew going in they were be a little bit salty. But man, that second one was just, the one with the cheese was just unexpectedly wonderful. So to kind of round this out, this does work great on cheese. With cheese, that is really where you go here. To me, it's more of a jelly than a jam. Texturally, I don't love it, and I am going to have to play around with this, I think. The product itself tastes, it's quite sweet, and it tastes like a sweet jelly. So texture-wise, I don't really love it. Flavor is fine. I mean, the flavor is, you've got bacon, and you've got, definitely, there's pieces of peppers in there as well. That part is nice. Heat is very minimal. I'm going to give this a no heat. Even though it says hot, it is not. There's very, very little heat to be had here. So it's an interesting product. Not really what I was hoping for, but it does have its uses. So I think it's kind of an interesting introduction into this. I think there's probably a better way to make a pepper and bacon thing than this, but rather than doing that, picking something up off the shelf is sometimes a pretty easy course where, if you can just grab a thing and then use it, that sometimes the convenience is worthwhile. In this case, for me, I would say probably not. This isn't anything world shattering to me. It's not like blowing my mind or anything like that, but I do see that it has some value. So would I get it again? Probably not, but definitely I have found the way to enjoy the rest of this. So I probably will be doing that for grill season 2025. But if you like jellies, if you don't have the sort of textural issue that I have with jellies, this might be more up your alley. To me, the flavor is kind of mild. It's a little bit diluted. I would have expected much more forceful flavor to it. But again, like I said, I think this is kind of a dip your toes into water with the concept type product. And we'll just leave it there. Definitely, if you are going to play around with this, though, keep the cheese in the forefront of your mind. That's my advice there. Anyway, though, that is going to do it for this one. The Terrapin Ridge Hot Habanero Bacon Jam. Number 4. In peace, to serve the flame.